think.
So, yeah, I'm Tim Panton. This is Alex. I do stuff, WebRTC stuff mostly, but I started out on the web, and I'm really liking the idea of getting back into web development and escaping from telephony. So that's the kind of sub-theme for this talk, and Alex will tell you who he is.
Yeah, I'm Alex Thomas. I first got swept into the WebRTC world by creating my own startup. I wanted to create audio chat for gamers and teams in the web browser, and like earlier speakers said, it was virtually impossible. The price cap was way too huge. And I stumbled upon a company called Xerxes and started using them, and it was a very natural fit for me to actually get a job there. And we provide stun and turn servers, globally scalable. You can bring any API into us, and it's great if you think the stun and turn server area is just a land of dragons. So
You got the cute thing.
the queue thing? It's over there. Actually, right. 1 second.
So I want to talk really about how to build a WebRTC app, and that comes into two chunks. The first one I want to absolutely emphasize is what not to do, right? I can't say this enough, right? Do not replicate the PSTN functionality. There's really no point, and specifically because it devalues both. Right? So the value in WebRTC is around its context. It's around the finely tuned UX that you're providing to your web users that you know a lot about, you know where they are, you know their friends, you know all of this stuff, and you tailor a UX to meet their goals of the thing that they're trying to achieve. Right? And the PSTN is exactly the other way. It's a generic mechanism that is, it's non-specific, but it's ubiquitous. And the great thing about the PSTN is you can still charge by the minute, right? Now, what happens when you combine the two is you lose all of those things. WebRTC stops being specific. It stops being a tailored UI. The PSTN, you can't charge by the minute anymore because people don't expect to be charged on the web. And hey, you also lose the ubiquitousness. So, like in general, it's like the worst of both worlds. And I can say this because I ran a startup doing it, and it wasn't a huge success. So, and actually, there was phonefromhere.com. So, having said all that, it just kind of for laughs, we're going to do it anyway. So, what we have here is the first demo. Now let me just make sure we have audio. Yes. Okay. So, what we have here is a framework I worked on, and I still kind of have a warm feelings for, that allows you to basically build. I could do with a slightly bigger font on that. I'll come back to it. Allows you to build apps that call out into the PSTN and some other things using WebRTC. And just to give you a sense of how easy it is, I'm running those 4 bits of JavaScript, and now we can make a phone call. Hopefully.
Hold please while we connect your call.
Thank you for calling 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. If you've placed an order with us before, please press 1. All other callers, please press 2.
And then you can press 2 and all that stuff. But the interesting thing is that if we
before,
hang in there for a little longer, she will tell you to go to the website.
I would like to speak to a person.
So my point there is that her thing is actually to drive you back to the web, right? So even if you do make a PSTN call with your WebRTC thing, the first thing you're going to hit is somebody saying, "Hey, go back to the web." So that is a serious issue, and I think you can't underestimate it. And now I need to get my screen back. There we go. So having annoyed all the PSTN people who are watching, let's build something that actually delights somebody. Let's build something that actually does do something kind of fun and useful. And so what we thought we'd do was to build something that would at least delight a pet. And pets are kind of, a lot of them are really social animals. And I must tell you, so this parrot that we may call later if the gods are with us. First time I met this parrot, it gave me a really seriously hard time. I came into the room with my friend, and this parrot started dive bombing me and squawking at me, right? And so my friend says, "Shake hands." And I'm thinking, well, I know this guy from like 5 years. We've been on a desert island together. We know each other pretty well. We're past the shaking hands thing. So I look at him really puzzled, and he says, "No, really, shake hands." So we shake hands, and the parrot watches. And immediately, the parrot's seen the social cue. The parrot knows that I'm now welcome, and therefore calms down. Still keeps a bit of a beady eye on me, but really stops hassling me. So they are social animals, and they understand visual clues. So, hey, video for them sounds fine. And actually, they like phone calls. Parrots will talk to you over the phone. So, we thought we'd build YoPet. So, having said that, we thought we'd probably better show you how you build an app. Now, sorry?
Watch it. Someone's going to want to invest.
Yeah, a seed round.
Huge demographic.
So, just to give you a sense of how easy this stuff is, really, kind of ish, this is all the app is going to do, right? All we have there is a couple of video elements, and, well, that's almost it. The only thing we do then is to add some scripting. jQuery, because I'm lazy. Hoodie's a really cute framework. Hoodie's a really nice framework for throwing up apps really quickly. It does all of the kind of sign in, sign out, consistency across multiple multiple devices for you, synchronization across multiple devices, all that stuff. And I'm going to ruthlessly abuse that synchronization as a way of doing signaling in WebRTC. And adapter.js just gets rid of some stuff that is slightly different between Firefox and Chrome. So that's a thing that the Google guys support. And then there's assets.js. But first I'll just show you the pet side of the thing. It's essentially the same thing, except that in general, pets don't like seeing themselves. Like most of them are really pretty territorial about other animals of their same species. So there is only one video element, and that's me as the owner. We don't show the pet themselves. So here we go, pretty much the same code. And then we get into the kind of complicated stuff, right? This is how you move stuff around in WebRTC. We're initializing Hoodie down here. We're adding some signing in as test, and that allows lazy stuff. And yeah, there's status stuff, and it's pretty much a standard web app. There's nothing exciting there. A little bit of cleaning up here that we remove anything that's loafing around the database when we start up. We set an image just so that we know that the thing's loaded, that we've got to that point. And now here's the real magic here. We run a WebRTC peer connection, so we fire one of those up. And then once we've fired one up, we then run get user media. And get user media accesses the camera. Having been given permission to the camera, we then get given a stream. We connect the stream to the video element we saw earlier. We then notify the peer connection of the stream. Now, I have to take some responsibility for the complexity of this, because there was an argument about whether peer connection and get user media should know about stuff under the hood, or whether the JavaScript developer should be responsible for passing things from A to B, and that that should be the only kind of connection point. And my view was that it was the JavaScript developer's responsibility, and that's how it turned out in the standard. Whether that was right or not, I think there's still people who may disagree, but hey, it's fine, it works. So having done that, we create an offer. And then once the offer is created, this is the magic. we push it into the Hoodie store. Now, Hoodie does this wonderful thing, which on the pet side, you can say that I'm listening to offers. And when Hoodie sees a new offer in the store, you get this callback called, and we can then do something with it. We create a remote description, we stuff it into the peer connection, and we clean up the Hoodie database. And so this whole thing kind of goes that way, and then we do the same thing the other way with the answer, and then we do the whole thing with the candidates. So like we kind of move around, I think, in this case, we probably move around 20 messages between Hoodie to get this call set up. And in the end, with any luck, you get to talk to your pet. So let's see if we can try that. Now, I need to get back to my browser. So I have Hoodie running, yes. Now then, slash. Now, Alex is going to be the pet for the moment. There's no, actually, no, let's not go there. And I'm going to be the owner with any luck. All right, so here's the owner. The user experience here is really simple. That's a graphical representation of me on a bad day, and this is a graphical representation of the pet. And then, with any luck, I get to call the pet. And does it come up? There we go. And we're getting to... And we get to meet... Whoa. Mute that. Get to meet the pet. So, you know, this kind of... It's no big deal. But, hey, we've done that in 150 lines of JavaScript maximum, complete app. But, so we looked at that. Oh... But actually, pets do get lonely at home. Like, you know, if you leave your pet all day, it's good to call your pet. It's good to give, you know, make sure. And we figured what you could do is you could take an old Android phone, like maybe you were given at Google I/O 2 years ago, strap it to your pet's cage, and then leave it in auto-answer mode, and you could just call the pet anytime you feel like it. And I should point out that the user experience is not reversible. The pet cannot call you at work. So we've built YoPet, but actually, it turns out that it's a bit of a pain in the neck, all that. It doesn't scale very well. We're using Hoodie really in an ugly way. So, and it's not really, and as somebody else said, the timing gets messed up if you're not just right next to each other on the same LAN. So actually, it turns out to be easier to use a framework in a lot of cases. And there are a lot of them out there. And they simplify the coding. They help you keep up with changing browser versions. And some of them provide nice features. So we kind of rewrote it. Can you just ping Harvin and make sure we've got a live pet?
He's ready.
OK, cool. So having said all that, I better get rid of that pet call. And I know what the agenda is. So if we look at the code for using a framework, so basically rewrote this thing slightly shorter. So we used HTML instead of HTML because it's more compact. And so we now have actually pretty much the same app, but I folded the JavaScript in because by this point there was barely any point in having two files. And the difference being that I've loaded this. Now, this is a framework that's in closed beta at the moment, but my friends were kind enough to allow me to use it for this demo. And I kind of like it. It's got some interesting little minor features which I don't know if they're unique or not, but I quite like them. So, you know, usual stuff with the framework. You sign in with an app ID, create yourself a client, and you get notified when you get connected. But the most interesting aspect of this is that within an application, their API allows you to assert an identity. So I can say, in this case, I'm the pet. And in the owner matching file, we say that we're the owner. And that allows us to just assert an identity. And it could be, you know, Fred or Bill or whatever you want to use, pet's name or whatever. But basically, you can assert that identity without having to do any kind of other infrastructure, which is, I'm finding actually pretty convenient. So, and there's pretty much nothing else, you know, it's pretty simple code. All we're doing is calling the thing. So, in fact, let's try that. Assuming I can get my... This is the thing I always... There we go. So now we need to find a browser. And so I was taking this really seriously, actually. You should, you know, I bought myself the domain as well. So I'm the owner here, and you know, there's got to be a business model here. So we need adverts. Hey, we're in Google. So we have now a cruddy user interface, and is Harvin, and he's ready. Okay, so he's running it.
I believe so.
Cool. Well, with any luck. Now I must ask you to be quiet. I don't want to scare this parrot. I've only just got to the point where it trusts me, and I don't want to scare it. So if we do connect to the parrot. Hi, Gallagher. Oh, we need some audio. So somewhere in there, there's a parrot. Where's he gone? Hey, Gallagher, how you doing? Hey, Gallagher, how's it? Doody 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 doo, doody 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 doo. Hi, Gallagher, how you doing? Yay! Doody 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 doo, doody 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 doo. Normally I can get Gallagher to dance, but not today. Anyway, so bye. Bye-bye, Gallagher. Right, so there you go. Thank Harvin for me. So no, actually the next version of this app will have the ability to push tunes to the far end so that you can get your pet to dance. So, that's an app of sorts. But, you know, that might not be what you really want. You might not be building a new app. You might not be seed funding a startup. You might be wanting to build it into an existing app. And you may be in an organization where it's not that easy to get at the code base of the existing app that you're trying to support. So what we did here was, well, let me just say, what you need to do is make sure the identity stuff lines up correctly. You want to pick a framework that fits the app, so uses the same kind of things like jQuery and whatever, and add some magic. Do something interesting, for goodness sake. So what we're going to do now, and this is just like stupidly risky. Actually, so stupidly risky, I've forgotten how to. There we go. Oh, and I must say, I have to give credit. Luis, I saw this demo that Luis did in Atlanta, and it was just fantastically cool. So I talked to him afterwards, and I asked him if I could steal a couple of ideas from it. And he said, absolutely, but give me credit. And I said, I am doing. And he said, I'm after a job. He's just graduated in Chicago. He's looking for a job. So if you like what I do here, give Luis a job. So, right, what we're doing here is we're going to add voice to Atlassian. I'm sorry, guys. I know you've got HipChat, but this is something slightly different. So what we do with this is, now, I'm going to live code this into Chrome, but actually, it's equivalent to running a Chrome extension. So like everything I'm doing here is something you can do as a Chrome extension. They're a little messier to set up and deploy, so it didn't seem like that would be good theater, but it's essentially the same process. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add, now this is cute. I didn't know you could do this until the other day, but you can actually inject JavaScript files with the Chrome console into a live running page, which is, sweet. So we're now loading jQuery and a library, and having done that, we will sign up with that library. Now, actually, one of us should mute, because this is going to get noisy. Okay, and now, Alex is doing the same thing on the screen you can't see on the same page. So the concept here is if you're both talking about an issue, like you're both worried about an issue, and you need to discuss it, well, why not use the issue page as the place where you have the effectively conference call? So, oops, that doesn't look good. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? So one person say that louder. Oh, okay, thank you. You're right. Because it's up here. I'm really, really glad somebody's watching what I'm doing. Thank you. So if we set by name, my name, and then with any luck, yes, good, excellent. So now the important thing there is, and I missed that, and that was a really good point, because what I've done is up here, somewhere deep in the DOM, it knows my name, okay? So the app already knows my name. So what I've done is I've pulled it out with that query and pushed it into the framework. So now the framework knows who I am. Now, Alex on the other side is going to pull that out and make a call. And we are now in a call. So we're now having a chat, but actually that's a bit unsatisfactory really, because the whole point about issues is that you're recording what it is that you're doing and keeping it as a record. So, hey, why don't we do that? So if I speak now, with any luck, it goes into my GitHub issue whilst I'm talking to Alex. So I'm now recording this conversation, and it's going into the issue, and Alex is, if he spoke, it would go into his. So then we can combine them. Now, there's a whole load of stuff you would add to make this a real app. But my point is that you can do this in the browser. This is all happening in the browser. This isn't something the framework's doing. This is, as you saw, this is whatever that is, 6 lines of code to kick off the Google Chrome recognizer with the web API. So there you go. We're inserting inserting text into a web page that I don't own. Somebody from Atlassian is responsible for this page, not me. So I suppose the point I'm trying to get over here is we can do stuff to existing web properties and existing contexts. And Serge mentioned WebRTC for dogs. I did actually, after you said that, I hacked something together. Turns out that dogs, or some dogs, are colorblind. So I thought we could rewrite the pet experience so that we'd be much more in sympathy with the dogs and do that in black and white. So I did that. We'll just very briefly show you that, and then I'm out of your hair. And I'm conscious that I'm standing between you and questions, and also between you and beer, neither of which I really want to do. So, what am I doing? I'm going to Yopet. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Yopet dog. So I'm now going to log in as a dog on Yopet. And now from and I want to point this out, this is a Firefox OS phone, right? Now if this works, I'm just going to be really happy, because I hacked it together in the... There we go. So we have a sepia-toned Serge LaChapelle. And just as a final thing, that was done using the seriously.js library, which applies a WebGL filter to the incoming WebRTC call. So it's actually, again, it's a few lines of JavaScript to do something really, well, that used to be a big news in the TV world. Anyway, that's us. Alex has been an immensely good sport with putting up with this nonsense. And I want to thank him very much for that.